everybody, and welcome back to the Yodaverse podcast. Very glad to have you here. So, today is going to be the conclusion of the storytelling series. We've talked about characters, we've talked about world building, we've talked about storytelling in general, we've talked about plotting versus pantsing and all that. And I feel like I just want to give almost like an overview sort of conclusion while using a real example of a story that I'm currently working on and slot it into these things and sort of explain to you basically everything that we've done. So if you're watching this episode, it's almost going to be recap like of the last few episodes. But before we get in, like, subscribe, share, comment your thoughts. All links in the description if you want to follow elsewhere or read the newsletter. So let's begin. So this is it. This is the last episode. So I wanted to do sort of like a toolkit recap, so to speak. So what this is the fundamental core aspects of a story that I believe are important in regards to telling a good one. So number one is a character that has a want or a wound. A want basically meaning what do they desire in life. And a wound could be something that the character is healing from. Next is a theme with some sort of tension, some sort of relative conflict, so to speak. Next is a structure. So how you pace your story, how, what acts you put in, where is the climax, how big is the climax, is it a long resolution, does it end at the climax? A moral dilemma. What does the character struggle with more than anything else? And then tone and genre matching. So the way that you write your story should reflect the genre in which the genre that you chose to write your story in. The tone in which you use to write it should reflect that. And then now we're going to do a sort of real-time breakdown of a story that I'm currently writing called The Descent, as in Descent into Madness. And I'd say it's a murder mystery action thriller in regards to the genre. So I'm just going to break it down with a few things. Number one is the hook. Number two is the core character. Number three is the genre and tone. Number four is the structure. Number five is the moral core. So number one, the hook. Her best friend dies in her arms. The police fail to find who did it, and she fails to find who did it. This is the inciting incident. It's what's going to be on the first page or the first 2 minutes of the movie, regardless. It's going to be something that sets it up. Like, for example, if I remember well, in Alex Rider's Stormbreaker, the first book, I think the first page has something to do, 3 a.m. is not the sort of time you expect someone to come knocking at your door and, there's like police at the door and all that, and it's like, oh, okay, so what's gonna happen next? That's what you want your readers or your watchers, depending on what kind of medium you're using, to feel. That's what you want them to feel inside. You want them to want to know more. And then there's a core character in this story. She wants justice, and she's wounded by grief, betrayal, and powerlessness. And then the internal conflict becomes what I'm calling her shadow arc, where now the descent happens, the descent into madness. So she dresses her vengeance as justice. It's a relatively dark story, not a genre that I've explored as much. Most of my short stories that I write tend to be very, like, more on the, how can I explain it? Yes, fiction, but more fantasy, magic, etc. Yeah, so genre and tone, as I mentioned, murder mystery and action thriller. So it's like a cold noir sort of tone. And then it's like lots of action. So shadows and action scenes and technology and guns and blood and all that. And then next we have the structure. So the structure, I think, can have 5 main, slots as well. So there's Act 1 where you open the story. So this is where, the best friend dies, and then her decision to act comes on. And then Act 2 is when we start seeing what the result of that was. So now she goes on basically like a killing spree almost, and to the point where she becomes she ends up solving crimes for other people. And it becomes a business, but her methods are a bit extreme. If she gets an answer, she will. If she wants an answer, she will get it. Then there's like a mid-point twist, like a plot twist of sorts, where it's like maybe her best friend's death was the start of something bigger, or the result of something much bigger than just that, and then she finds a person who did it. And then there comes the climax of sorts. There's a story climax where the action is happening, but then my sort of climax is almost like the point where the character has to make a decision. So does she continue down this dark path that she has carved out for herself, or does she grieve and then accept that her best friend is gone and go back to living a normal life? And then lastly, after structure, is the moral core. So when justice falls, does vengeance become sacred, or does it poison you? So that's like the statement at the back of my mind while I'm writing this. And now I want to show you, or sort of actually read for you what the synopsis for a story like this would look like. So yeah. So, when Zafira's best friend Anna dies without a trace, all evidence points to a chilling truth: murder. Driven by grief and rage, the sharp-witted teen vows to uncover the killer. Thousands of suspects and no clear answers. Zafira does the unthinkable. She starts eliminating them, one by one. Her descent into obsession transforms her from an ordinary girl into a feared assassin and detective, a ghost in the criminal underworld. As her kill count rises, so does her infamy, drawing the attention of powerful corporations and shadowy syndicates eager to buy her skills for their own twisted agendas. Haunted by loss and hunted by those she once trusted, Zafira walks a razor's edge between justice and vengeance. But when she uncovers a conspiracy that stretches far beyond her best friend's death, Zafira must confront a horrifying truth. Some secrets are buried, not to be found, but to be protected at any cost. In a world where morality is a weapon and truth can kill, how far will she go to bring light to the darkness? So that's how it all comes together. So writing a synopsis like that is basically taking the main idea of a story and just breaking it down so it is something you can always refer to, and know where the character is, keeping all that in mind. And so that's how the story gets formed. So that's how it all comes together. It's real, it's authentic, it makes sense. That's very important. It has to make sense to someone. And yeah, with that, you're a storyteller now. And stories don't have to be as complex as this, either by character or morally or by the setting or world building or anything. It doesn't have to be as complex as this. But the things that I've talked about over the last 4 weeks is just giving you an idea of what goes around in my head when I'm thinking about storytelling. Some people have way simpler approaches, and you just pick what works for you. If you want to tell a particular story, whether it's real, whether it's fictional, whether it's in a certain genre, that's completely up to you. You have all the tools you need, which is literally just your brain. You just need to be able to not think, and most importantly, imagine. Because imagination is extremely important when it comes to crafting stories, and the uniqueness within you, the story, the things that you've gone through, the things that you aspire to be, all that will have a fingerprint sort of in the stories that you make. And a bit of a tangent here, but for example, when we're doing character design, there's always something about you inside your characters. And I feel like the same applies to your stories. There's always something connected to you with the particular story that you're writing. And that has been it. That is the last episode of the storytelling series. I really do hope that you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it. And it's something that I'm extremely passionate about. And speaking of stories, if you want to know what I'm writing non fictionally, be sure to check the link in the description to be able to follow the Yodaverse newsletter on Substack. And yeah, that's is basically it. I'm grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you for watching, and also feel free to make suggestions for future content. Maybe I should do another series of sorts, maybe not, just do individual episodes. If you want longer episodes, shorter episodes, more episodes, yeah. Comment what you think, and I feel like the next one will be slightly more educational, so to speak, more of the on the science slash psychology side of things, still figuring out how to lay it out in a way that's fun. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Take care, God bless, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.